Clark pushing the break. Clark again, what a dime. And Hull finishes it at the rim. Everything was lining up for a moment the basketball world had been waiting for. Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers. Two generational stars, two careers colliding on the biggest stage. This wasn't just another game. It was the long-anticipated showdown between basketball's brightest prodigies finally sharing the spotlight.
Clark in transition. Clark, oh, what a look! And Hull lays it in!
But when the moment finally arrived, the outcome wasn't even close. Caitlin Clark didn't just outplay Paige Bueckers, she overwhelmed her. Limited to just 25 minutes, playing under a minute's restriction, and fresh off an injury, Clark still put on a performance for the history books. What she delivered wasn't merely impressive, it was a statement. One of the most dominant displays the WNBA has ever seen.
It's not Paige versus Caitlin, and it takes the entire team to win a basketball game.
It stunned everyone watching. 64 points before halftime. A pass so flawless it brought the game to a standstill. How does someone rewrite the record books in just one half without even pushing the pedal all the way down? This wasn't simply a night of basketball, it was a declaration. So let's rewind and unpack the moments that turned this matchup into something unforgettable. Because to grasp why this performance carried so much weight, you have to look at the long road that led here. Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers haven't just crossed paths, they've been on a collision course for nearly 10 years.
But I think the biggest thing about her is she competes, and she's just a winner. She wants to win at all costs. So I know going into that, it'll be a great match.
Their paths crossed long before the spotlight found them. They suited up together for USA Basketball youth squads. They battled each other in AAU tournaments before most fans even knew their names. Then they rose to the top of college basketball. Caitlin Clark at Iowa and Paige Bueckers at UConn. And the comparisons became impossible to ignore. These weren't just stars, they were the faces of the sport, the rare players who could pack arenas anywhere in the country. Two guards whose style went beyond wins and losses and turned every game into must-see entertainment. Their first truly iconic showdown came on the biggest stage imaginable, the 2024 Final Four. Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes versus Bueckers' UConn Huskies, with a trip to the national title game hanging in the balance. What followed was instant history, constant momentum swings, clutch buckets, a finish that felt destined to be replayed forever. And when the horn finally sounded, it was Clark and Iowa standing tall, escaping with a 71-69 victory, and adding another unforgettable chapter to one of basketball's greatest rivalries.
Bueckers responds from deep.
That win punched Iowa's ticket to the championship, and it gave Caitlin Clark the edge in their rivalry. Paige Bueckers walked away from that night with one thing on her mind: payback. Fast forward to the 2025 WNBA draft, and the landscape had completely shifted. After capturing Rookie of the Year honors in 2024, Clark had already carved out her place as the league's most electric new star, a player who changed the energy in every arena she stepped into.
Caitlin Clark, who is incredible from the free throw line, she misses the second free throw.
After choosing to spend one more season at UConn in pursuit of a national title, Paige Bueckers entered the draft and was selected first overall by the Dallas Wings. Just like that, the rivalry crossed into the pro ranks. Fans immediately circled the calendar. When would Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers finally collide in the WNBA? The first chance arrived on June 27th in Dallas, but the moment was put on hold. Clark was forced to watch from the sideline, sidelined by a groin injury.
He was definitely in some pain there. Missed 4 games with that groin injury.
From the sideline, she could only watch as Paige Bueckers poured in 27 points and handed out 6 assists. Even with the Fever pulling off a 94-86 win, it felt incomplete. Everyone in the building knew it. This wasn't the real clash. That moment was merely postponed. Then came July 13th. A sold-out Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. And at last, the matchup everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. As the opening quarter approached, Fever head coach Stephanie White understood the magnitude of the night. Before the ball even went up, she framed Clark versus Bueckers as a rivalry in the same lineage as Cheryl Swoops and Lisa Leslie, the kind of head-to-head battles that helped shape the WNBA's earliest era.
Before becoming one of the most electrifying players in WNBA history, Cheryl Swoops was a sensation on the college stage.
White said watching those classic battles during her own playing days helped shape her vision of what the league could become. Now, more than 20 years later, a new generation finally had its own version of that kind of rivalry. People tune in for stars, White told reporters before tip-off. You see it with LeBron and Steph. Those matchups matter. Inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the energy crackled. Fans poured in from Iowa and Minnesota, the home states of Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers. College jerseys blended with WNBA gear throughout the stands. This didn't feel like a routine regular season night. It felt like an occasion. And the second the ball went up, both stars answered the call. Within the opening 2 minutes, Clark made her impact felt, not with a jumper, but with instinct. She read Bueckers in the passing lane, jumped the route, took the ball clean, and exploded the other way. No pause, no hesitation. She absorbed contact and finished at the rim. The building erupted. That's what makes Clark so dangerous. She doesn't just score, she disrupts. She turns defense into instant offense. Every mistake against her comes with a price. But Paige Bueckers has never been one to flinch. A few possessions later, she caught the ball well beyond the arc. Clark was right there, crowding her space, hand up, fully engaged. It didn't matter. Bueckers rose from nearly 30 feet and buried the three right over her rival. The Dallas bench exploded. Bueckers stared back at Clark. This wasn't backing down. This was a warning. The first quarter delivered everything fans hoped for. Both players finished with 7 points and 2 assists in the opening 10 minutes. Buckets traded, highlights exchanged, moments stacked on top of moments, all reminding everyone why these two represent the future of the game. Then came the second quarter, and everything shifted. Something ignited for Indiana when the period began. And by ignited, I mean the game tilted completely into Caitlin Clark's control. An early three gave the Fever the lead, and from there, the floodgates opened. The ball began to move with surgical precision. Cuts were clean. Screens landed with purpose. Every pass arrived exactly on time. At the center of it all stood Clark, orchestrating. She wasn't forcing shots. She was conducting the offense like a maestro guiding a symphony. And then came the play that froze the entire arena. Clark swatted a shot on one end. Aaliyah Boston secured the rebound and immediately pushed the tempo. Clark was already sprinting up the floor, reading the court 2 steps ahead of everyone else. Boston found her near midcourt. What followed was pure basketball poetry. Sophie Cunningham was streaking down the right lane, a defender positioned squarely between them. Most players would slow it down, reset, run the half-court offense. Clark didn't hesitate. She fired a full-court laser, a touchdown pass that sailed just over the defender's fingertips and dropped perfectly into Cunningham's hands in stride. Layup, no contest. The announcers lost it. Beautifully done. Touchdown, Fever. That single pass captured everything that separates Clark from everyone else. The vision to spot angles others don't see. The nerve to attempt passes others won't try, and the skill to execute them so cleanly that even veteran broadcasters are left searching for words. Indiana poured in 36 points in the second quarter. They shot 16 for 21 from the field, 76% over a full 12-minute stretch. Dallas had no answers. They trapped Clark. They switched coverages. They threw different looks. Nothing worked. Every adjustment was punished by another perfect read, another open teammate, another easy bucket, all flowing from the same source. Caitlin Clark had taken over the game.
Trying to force the action, banks it in for the nation's leading scorer, Caitlin Clark.
By the break, Indiana was up 18. They had poured in 64 points before halftime, the highest scoring half by any WNBA team all season. The outcome was essentially sealed. And Caitlin Clark had logged barely 20 minutes. That's when the night officially crossed into history, because you have to slow down and really absorb what Clark did in this game. The stat line alone doesn't do it justice. She wrapped up the night with 14 points, 13 assists, and 5 steals in just 25 minutes. On paper, it might look impressive. In reality, it's borderline absurd once you place it in WNBA context. With that performance, Clark became just the 5th player in league history to post multiple games with at least 10 points, 10 assists, and 5 steals. Let that sink in. The WNBA has existed since 1997. Thousands of games, hundreds of all-stars, decades of elite talent, and only 5 players have ever combined scoring, playmaking, and defensive havoc at that level more than once. Now Clark is one of them, in only her 2nd pro season, but it doesn't stop there. She is now the only player ever to record 14 or more points, 13 or more assists, and 5 or more steals in multiple games. No one else has done it twice, not even close. That record belongs to her alone. No footnotes, no conditions. competitions, just Caitlin Clark standing by herself at the summit. She also became the fastest guard in WNBA history to reach 100 assists in a season and the quickest to hit 200 points and 100 assists. Every time she takes the floor, the record book gets rewritten. Every game adds something that didn't exist before. What we're watching isn't just greatness, it's history unfolding in real time.
The first logo bomb of the season from Caitlin Clark.
And she did all of it wearing a WNBA jersey while still on a minutes restriction. This was only her third game back from injury. She wasn't supposed to empty the tank. The coaching staff carefully managed her workload, and yet she still directed a 19-point rout while barely seeing the floor for half the game. Indiana finished the night with 30 assists on 40 made field goals. That's elite level ball movement in any league at any level. 5 different players reached double figures. Kelsey Mitchell led the way with 20 points. Natasha Howard added 18. Aaliyah Boston chipped in 17. Sophie Cunningham brought 13 off the bench. This wasn't a one-player show. It was a complete team effort from top to bottom. But let's be honest, everyone in the arena knew where it all started. Everyone watching at home could see who was pulling the strings. Caitlin Clark was the engine. She created the space. She forced the rotations. She made defenders late on every decision. She's the reason shots were open, the reason passing lanes existed, the reason the Fever looked like a championship-ready group instead of a team still searching for its identity. 14 points, 13 assists, 5 steals, 25 minutes. History. Paige Bueckers' performance. And let me be clear, this is not about tearing down Paige Bueckers. What she's doing as a rookie is special. She finished with 21 points on 9 of 15 shooting, elite efficiency. She added 4 rebounds and 4 assists. And she extended her streak of double-digit scoring games to start a career to 17. Only 3 players in WNBA history have opened their careers with longer runs. Aja Wilson, Candace Parker, Natalie Williams. That's rare company. Bueckers showed exactly why she was taken number 1 overall. The talent is real, the future is bright, but on this night, the game flowed through Caitlin Clark.
Clark working on the rookie, Clark on the drive, hang, shot too strong, there's Howard to clean up. And Clark working off the ball.
She showed exactly why the Dallas Wings built their franchise around her. There's a fluidity to Paige Bueckers' game that feels almost unfair. Her pull-up jumper? Wet every time. Her ability to find her spots, no matter who's guarding her? Elite. Early in the first half, she stole the ball from Clark, went coast to coast, and finished with an and one. Fearless. She doesn't flinch in big moments, doesn't hesitate in traffic, doesn't care who's in her way. But here's the distinction between this season's Bueckers and this season's Clark. Clark doesn't just score, she makes everyone around her better. A Fever team without Clark? Solid. With Clark? A legitimate championship contender. She creates open looks, manipulates defenses, elevates her teammates' games in ways few players ever have. Bueckers is still learning that at the professional level. She will get there. Her basketball IQ is off the charts. But as of July 2025, Clark is operating at a level Bueckers hasn't reached yet. Fever coach Stephanie White summed it up after the game. She praised Bueckers for picking things up quickly, but highlighted the gap between good players and great ones. When you play someone with an elite IQ who leads in every aspect and you try to throw them off, but they just maintain their flow, that's the difference between good players and great players, White said. Let's break down the plays that made this game unforgettable. The first quarter steal I mentioned earlier? Pure instinct. Clark read the passing lane, jumped the ball, and sprinted coast to coast, finishing seamlessly. Then there was the deep 3 in the second quarter, the very same shot she had been missing during a recent slump. Before the game, Clark had worked with the Fever's player development coach, who showed her stats from a shooting slump Steph Curry experienced early in his career. That conversation gave her perspective and confidence. She stepped up and drained a 3 from the logo, and the crowd erupted. Moments like that are why Clark isn't just a scorer. She's a showstopper, a leader, and a player who turns the ordinary into the extraordinary.
Bueckers is going, oh my goodness, I'm taking this to the hole without hesitation.
You could see it on her face. Relief, confidence, the shot was back. Late in the third quarter came a sequence that few expected. Clark isn't typically a back-to-the-basket player. She doesn't bully defenders in the paint, but with Bueckers' teammate Georgie Quinerly guarding her, Clark decided to get physical. She backed her defender down, pump faked, faded away, and dropped a flawless turnaround jumper. The announcers were stunned. "This is adding to the bag," one said. "That's what makes Clark so dangerous. Just when you think you figured her out, she pulls out something completely new." And the highlights didn't stop there. There was the rim rejection. A block turned into a flick-ahead pass, leading to an easy layup in transition. The one-handed bounce pass through traffic that found Kelsey Mitchell for a wide-open three. The extra pass, and then another, until a Fever player finished with a layup, completely uncontested, defenders nowhere near. This wasn't just basketball, this was mastery at the highest level, a performance that makes you fall in love with the game all over again.
Clark was trying to redirect a pass. Clark, oh my, from Schenectady!
Every possession felt like a highlight. Every sequence felt like one you would replay over and over. So what does this game mean for the WNBA as a whole? What did July 13th teach us that we didn't already know? A few things stand out, and they all point in the same direction. First and foremost, the Clark versus Bueckers rivalry is real, and it's going to be must-watch basketball for years to come. Even though the final score was lopsided and Indiana dominated for 3 quarters, the individual matchup delivered exactly the kind of excitement this league craves. These two players share history, mutual respect, and contrasting styles that make every meeting a show. Over the next decade, they'll trade wins, produce instant classic battles, and create moments that fans will remember forever. More than that, they'll push each other to heights neither could reach alone, elevating not just themselves, but the entire sport.
Clark, step back. She's comfortable already. 2 points to go.
This is exactly the kind of star-driven rivalry that turned the NBA into a global phenomenon. Magic versus Bird, Jordan versus everyone, LeBron versus the field. Now, the WNBA has its own chapter, Clark versus Bueckers, and if their first professional showdown is any indication, we're in for something truly special. Second, Caitlin Clark has officially set herself apart from the rest of the league. She's no longer just the best young guard or the most thrilling player to watch. She's making a serious case for being the top point guard in the entire WNBA. Her court vision, unmatched. Her playmaking, almost supernatural. Her ability to elevate teammates, transformative. Her clutch gene, always there when her team needs it most. Clark doesn't wait for games to happen. She takes over. Every tool needed to dominate at the highest level is already in her arsenal, and she's only in her second professional season. The scary part? She's still improving, still adding new elements, still learning what works at the pro level. If this is Clark at 80%, imagine what 100% looks like. Finally, the Indiana Fever showed they're a real championship threat when every player contributes the way they did in this game. Balanced, precise, and dangerous. A team built to compete at the highest level.
And she has officially moved on up in the record.
You bet!
To the first offensive possession for Indy.
Clark's ability to control the offense makes it impossible for defenses to simply key in on her. Send a double team, she finds the open shooter every single time. Play her straight up on the perimeter, she'll beat you one-on-one off the dribble. It's a choose your poison scenario that very few teams in the WNBA can consistently handle. When the Fever get 5 players in double figures, when the ball moves with precision and purpose, and when Clark is conducting the offense like a symphony, they become nearly unstoppable. That's a terrifying thought for every team in the league as the second half of the season approaches. Clark has made her statement, but the question remains, who can rise to her level? Bueckers flashed brilliance, but on this night, it wasn't enough. The Fever are on a mission, and with Clark leading the charge, they could be unstoppable. Yet the season is far from over. The challenge has only just begun. Can Bueckers close the gap? Will any team have the tools to disrupt Clark's dominance? The next chapter of this rivalry, and this league, is waiting to be written. What happens next could reshape the balance of power in women's basketball forever. The clock is ticking.